onto the market indicators now. The JSE, complete opposite to what we saw at the day close yesterday, in the positive today, seeing a nice rebound for the financial stocks. And we saw the likes of Standard Bank closing over 5% in the green today. If we update that and take a look at your mining shares, we are seeing a little bit of improvement from yesterday, but still quite a bit of pressure coming in from the resource stocks. And that brings us to the commodities. We are seeing that the price of oil remaining steady, and that's ahead of the OPEC countries meeting to talk about a supply within the global economy, as well as the stockpiles that currently exist. So we might see a move in the price of Brent crude as soon as that meeting has concluded. And then to the local currency now, it has strengthened a little bit against the US dollar, and I suppose that probably has to do with the pronouncements that have come from the Federal Reserve, and that's a central bank in the United States, on the interest rate hiking cycle, signaling that they might put a pause on that. Let's talk more about those movements now. Ridwaan Moolla, the CEO at Think Markets, joins us for that discussion. A very good afternoon to you, Ridwaan, and welcome to the Money Desk for the new year. Let's start with those overall markets. A positive close to the JSE today. Locally, we saw a healthy rebound in the financial stocks, but I think the global story here is the optimism around the tone that has been put forward by Jerome Powell around the interest rate cycle in the United States.
Good afternoon. Yeah, it's actually been quite an interesting day today. I mean, you'd expect with the Federal Reserve interest rate in the US coming out later tonight, you may see a bit of a quiet day, but it wasn't the case. I mean, we had large cap stocks like Bidcorp and them releasing their trading updates and shooting up more than 12%. In fact, midday, eventually closing 6.5% up. The dollar weakening, it was actually just something quite amazing to happen today. But overall, yes, thankfully our market was green finally today. We're not yet near the 80,000 point. And obviously shares like MTN's, ShopRite, those were actually down. I mean, MTN was down just over 2%, and ShopRite again, 3%, just over 3% down, even though they had good trading results yesterday. But as your previous guest, Chris Gilmore, just alluded, the big problem there being load shedding and the cost of all the diesel that they're using.
And I want us to zone in on ShopRite, about 3.3% in the red to close off the day. One would assume that shareholders are quite nervous about the unsustainable spending of money on diesel, and this the fear that it might eventually fall onto the consumer. That affordability, a thing that ShopRite has puts pride on, might come to a short end because of the diesel. Tell us a little bit about that and the fact that it's actually going into the operational expenses of these retailers.
Yeah, we know last year we spoke about it when Telkom was announcing, when they announced their results, and they were talking about the cost of load shedding and the impact it's had. And ShopRite this time around, I mean, it was close to 10% of their trading profit, the cost of diesel, just to keep their shops going. So this cost is becoming quite a big chunk of revenue that is actually coming through there. Now, if you weigh it up, I mean, what do? You either close your stores and, for load shedding, and then, well, you've lost all that revenue. Or you keep it open and you have to spend this huge amount of money to actually keep them operational and to keep your fridges going and everything else. It is actually becoming a very concerning cost right now for especially the retailers. It's not going to be able to continue with this year, and it's going to start passing that on to consumers. I mean, and that's going to impact our food prices, and we're going to then potentially even see inflation then going up as well.
And that, of course, won't bode very well for what the Reserve Bank may do going forward if we see that scenario play out, Ridwaan. What's banking on the global market is Bidcorp, the food services business. So they're also putting out some healthy numbers, but they are just benefiting from the global markets gaining a lot more momentum.
Yeah, Bidcorp's trading results were, well, it's a trading update. It was fantastic. I won't lie. That's the only word we can use. It was just amazing. It was talking of the headline earnings per share to increase between 43 and 49%. It's looking at doing fantastically well. I mean, consumers, investors, everybody loved it. Nothing really negative in their results. So really and truly quite amazing results that came out from them. Like I say, I mean, it was up over 11% around midday and eventually closing 6.5% up. I mean, it was one of the shining examples of a really, really well-run business.
And despite the current trading conditions that we are all facing. And then Harmony Gold, so their higher grade of gold really boosted production. They put out their production output update today. A really solid time for that particular miner. Your thoughts on that production update?
So remember what Harmony Gold actually said was that they were going to meet their target. And that's important to understand, is that they're looking at 1.4 million to 1.5 million ounces of gold that they're obviously going to be producing, but it was within target. And the big thing that came out of it is that they are going to sustain, be able to sustain their cost of less than 9,000 Rand per kilo, which is very, very important. So the share price, it was up this morning. It obviously followed on those results to say at least, they are going to meet their full year production target, which is important. Gold price obviously has helped it a hell of a lot, where it's over $1,900. All of those things have done very well. Our resource sector throughout the beginning of this year have done fantastically well, and that's mostly because obviously China's opening up and there's more exports going to be happening. So mining's right now, I know you're going to see over the last few days, it's come off a bit. I mean, the resource sector was slightly down today, but at the end of the day, they've had a brilliant run. And it all speaks to the fact that we are able to do what we do very well in South Africa, and that is mine, get our stuff out there.
Indeed, we are very good at that. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. That is Ridwaan Moolla, CEO of Think Markets, joining us to wrap up the market.